An avid traveler and self-proclaimed explorer, Ania Bulis has been part of the Big Sky community for 26 years. She's one of the founders of the Big Sky Real Estate Company, which began in 2017. Ania, thank you for joining us to share your insight on the local real estate market tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. So from a business standpoint, what was your initial reaction when COVID-19 began to spread throughout the US?
I think initially we all sort of took a little bit of a pause, and that would be where my head was at when it first started. I don't think I quite anticipated the response that we had starting in late May, but for the first couple of months, you could tell that everybody was reflecting on the current situation wherever they were and just trying to, for themselves and for their families, figure out what life would look like once things had settled. And so my initial reaction was we were going to, sort of see a pause, and that's certainly what happened for the first couple of months.
And since then, though, what have you witnessed?
Yeah, so it's almost as if when school ended, everybody decided they were going on a road trip, and somehow all roads led to Montana, and specifically for us to the Bozeman and Big Sky area. And people are reevaluating how they want to spend their time. People are reevaluating where they want to educate their children. People are reevaluating how much they can actually work from home and whether or not they need to go into the offices. And it reminded me of myself a little bit, because in 1994, I moved to Big Sky and spent what started as 6 months, but ended up being 3 years here, and then moved to Boston, moved here from New York, moved back to Boston. And within 8 months, I realized that if there was a place that I wanted to live year round, Big Sky was a great place to do that. And I think that that's sort of where a lot of people have landed in this COVID era.
Yeah, and you discussed the possibility of working from home that's kind of been brought to light by the pandemic. Why do you believe people are choosing to relocate to Southwest Montana in particular?
Well, I don't think it's just Southwest Montana. I think it's a lot of resort communities. I think it's a lot of outdoor communities. And if you look across the board, yes, we're certainly seeing an uptick, but so are other areas that are less urban. And the rationale there is I think people are looking for more space. They have a new appreciation for the outdoors. I certainly hope that museums and areas of culture come back in a robust fashion in the very near future, but for the time being, that is taking a back seat a little bit to the safety piece. And I think people are finding themselves, those people that are finding themselves in positions where they want to spend more time with their family and more time outdoors, and Big Sky and other locations like it are faring favorably.
Yeah. Well, you discussed resort towns other than Big Sky. So what similarities and differences are you noticing on a national versus the local market in terms of trends within the real estate industry?
So both real estate and non-real estate industry, we're seeing a migration outside of the cities and into the suburbs. And friends of mine who had houses for sale outside of New York City, in Connecticut, who were having a tough time selling over the last few years, instantly saw multiple offers as people wanted to leave the city. We certainly are seeing it in other resort communities throughout the Rockies. Jackson's seeing it, the Colorado resorts are seeing it, Park City's seeing it. So certainly we're seeing a migration out of the urban areas and into the suburbs and resort communities.
Yeah, and you mentioned people receiving multiple offers when they previously had kind of been stagnant. Are buyers purchasing homes and properties at, above, or even below asking price? And what are negotiations like between buyers and sellers at this point?
It obviously, it always varies depending on the property. We're seeing some come in over asking. We're seeing multiple offers or multiple counter offers, but we're also seeing some deals coming in under asking. It just simply depends on the piece of real estate. I would say if there's one place that's stronger than others, it's those opportunities that are move-in ready. Certainly sorry, my phone's ringing. Certainly are allowing, are having more buyers coming into those specific properties, much more so than land, although land is also seeing an increase in activity.
Yeah, and you mentioned Lansing and increase in activity. Development in Big Sky is a hot topic. How much opportunity is there left to further develop Big Sky, in your opinion?
Well, sorry, I paused. Um, Obviously, there's a lot of opportunity in Big Sky. I think from what I've seen, there's really been thoughtful planning and development being done, especially in the resort areas. I really appreciate the fact that all the parts are actually working together. So whether you're looking at town center or you're looking at some of the private resorts, or whether you're even looking at some of the property owners that are independent that are doing developments in and around Big Sky, you're seeing a lot of collaboration. People are working with each other. People are understanding of what their projects, what the project needs are. So from that perspective, I'm pleasantly surprised, I guess, at what I've seen.
And obviously you have a knowledge of the local developments. Can you provide a brief update on what you know that is going on throughout Big Sky?
So if local developments mean Spanish Peaks and Moonlight Basin, yes. I mean, we're sort of moving in the same trajectory, in the same direction that we have been with both of those communities. So not necessarily building more and building more quickly, but really just sort of in line with what we've been doing. And if anything, perhaps COVID is creating, it will probably push us to develop a little more quickly in the next couple of years in terms of some of the projects that we've had on the drawing boards, but not anything that wasn't already originally in the works.
Yeah, well, I'm going to throw a little bit of a curveball at you. I heard you mentioning when we were on before the call started that you know, your hours have been expanded as a result. Can you discuss that a little further?
Wow. You know, first of all, I have an amazing group that I work with and an amazing team. And somebody was saying, how are you holding up? And my response was, they're actually holding me up. But we do work longer hours, and it's not just real estate. All of us are. One of the things, you know, we have had some blessings with COVID, and that was the pause that we sort of talked about earlier today. But the after effect has certainly been a roller coaster ride in terms of hours and the long hours that all of us, and I say that as it relates to healthcare workers, and we certainly saw our teachers putting in lots of hours when we went to schooling online. And you know, it's sort of our turn now. We're putting in a lot of hours this summer, and my sense is that by Labor Day weekend, I think it will probably slow down a little bit, in the sense that individuals will have decided whether or not they want to be in Montana, whether they can be in Montana, or whether they are going to continue the schooling and the working from their original homes. So I think we'll see a little bit of a slowdown at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. And following up on the Spanish Peaks or Moonlight bit that you just touched on briefly, how much real estate has been contracted at Moonlight in the past 90 days?
Oh, you're asking me a statistical question. I'm not sure that I actually can answer that accurately. So I may have to get back to you guys on that, and you might have to do a follow-up. A great deal. And both resale and developer product in both communities, we've seen a much higher transaction volume just across the board and throughout Big Sky. So it's not just development specific. It really is truly across the whole entire community. And I will say, I think part of that is, you know, while the governor mandated masks, Big Sky mandated masks even before then. And I'm sort of proud of this community for doing that, for recognizing the health and safety of not just our tourists and not just our visitors, but for all of our community members and owners and residents.
Well, while we're on the topic of masks, we discussed that you're an avid traveler. So given the current status of COVID-19 in the US, do you have any travel plans in the near future?
Not yet, but every day I look to see which country is going to let us in. No, obviously we want to be respectful of other people's safety and not just mine. But I also, we have this one life to live, and whatever your passion is, I hope everybody is continuing along those lines. So yes, I will have travel plans in the future this fall, hopefully.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Ania. That's all I had for you, but I want to toss it over to Joe and see if we have any audience or follow-up questions.
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. And Ania, thank you for joining us. We really, enjoy having you on here. It's great to see you around in the community, but also have you on the show and chat a little bit about your expertise. And we don't have any questions from the audience right now, but I do have a follow-up question. I was just kind of curious, just from your own perspective. You talked a little about how you're holding up and how your team is really the ones that you feel are holding you up. And I feel like that a lot of us feel that way. You can't travel right now. You're an avid traveler. What are you doing to keep yourself sane these times?
All right. Well, so I fished for the first time. I caught my first fish this summer. That was amazing. I'm spending a lot of time outdoors. I'm trying to do yoga as much as possible. And really trying to enjoy the little moments with family. Believe it or not, the nightly walks are fantastic. It's the little stuff. So just as much time as possible outside, because as we all know, Montana is a lovely place, but it really is spectacular in the summer. And so just trying to enjoy that as much as possible with the ones I love.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think we can count ourselves lucky in that regard. Well, Ania, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We really appreciate your time.